Movie and TV fans get in for a treat right now. Brothers, cousins, daughters, all in the same family. Same in show business. I'm proud to have them as my, counterparts in the brotherhood of showbiz. Our guest today, Joe Estevez. Name found familiar? Well, we'll find out exactly what the connection is. Stay with us, won't you please? Welcome to Wordnet. Thanks for joining us here on Wordnet today. I'm Jack Knight, your host, and I'm really excited to talk to our guest today, Joe Estevez, from a family of performers that you all know, Marty Sheen, Emilio Estevez, Charlie Sheen, and Joe has 3 daughters in the business as well. So when they get together, it's one, hey, what'd you do last week? Oh, I had an audition for this and that. I know what that's all about, and I'm so anxious to talk to him. Joe, thanks for coming today.
Well, Jack, thank you so much. It's an honor. It's an honor to be here. You know, if I might say, people ask me, they say, "Well, how does it feel to come from a show business family?" I didn't come from any show business family. You know, I came from 2 immigrant parents and a factory worker at Dayton, Ohio, with 10 kids to support. We were what they call the working poor, you know. So, the show business thing, maybe now, but not then. No, we were children of immigrant parents.
Now, tell me about your dad.
I know the word is thrown around, but he was a great man. He was a great man. Like I said, my mother had 12 children, 10 living children. And she died when I was 5 years old.
Oh, my.
And my father was left with 10 children. And nobody would have blamed him if he'd have turned the youngest ones over to an orphanage or whatever. But he raised us all. I remember him. Not only did he provide for our family, but he sent money to my mother's family back in Ireland. He sent money back to his family back in Spain, because as poor as we were, they were even poorer. But I don't remember a repairman ever been in our house. Anything that broke or anything that needed fixed or cemented or woodwork, he did everything. Never complained. All he wanted was to have time to watch his gun smoke every now and then, you know. But good man, great man. Very quiet, very humble. But when I look at people today, my father was a great man.
You must have raised some wonderful kids, too, because been successful. And I can always remember people calling Marty super Catholic because of his interest in like Loretta Young or Jane Wyatt, you know.
Yeah.
Which is good, because people look at the celebrities with awe.
Yeah.
And then when they find out, like Ann Jillian, that they are just terrific Catholics as well, always a good representation of the church and in their work and in their personal lives.
If I may speak about my mother in that regard, that, born in Tipperary County, Portuguese, Ireland, and brought that Irish faith with her. And every night after dinner, and I remember this, every night after dinner, we said the rosary. And Lent, we said the 3 rosaries, you know. But it's, in that saying of the rosary, there was a love and a coming together in love and in the church of all the family and all the brothers. And, we'd try to act tough with each other, and we did that. But when we came together around that table with the rosary That was special. And it was something that I'm sorry to say, when my mother passed, that she was the heart of the family. And we lost that. And soon after, you know, the rosary, you know, that went by the roadside.
Yeah.
But still, we all kept that in our hearts. And we kept that faith in our hearts. And I think all of us, pretty good Catholics.
I remember the traveling statue of the Blessed Mother in my parish.
Wow.
It would go from one household to another for a day or two, and the family would say the rosary. I can hear my mom and two of my siblings and myself kneeling in the living room. And my grandfather, my father's dad, just like your family, after supper every night, he was in that little den off the living room, on his knees, listening to Cardinal Cushing say the rosary.
Yeah.
And Cardinal Cushing had a voice that would break through a wall. And when he got to the center of the poem where you stop, and then those with would finish the rest of the Hail Mary, he would say, and sounded just like this, "And blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God," like that.
Yeah.
Day after day after day, it's forever embedded in my mind. He was a mucky muck in the Knights of Columbus with that funny hat and wore the sword and the uniform.
I
and all
love
that.
that. I love
And
that.
he went to Mass at St. Joe's Church down in the square with his brother Harry, my Uncle Harry, who was a character too, whose favorite holy day was Christmas. He would buy a Christmas tree that went from floor to ceiling and full. And if it wasn't full, he would buy another tree. And he would cut out the bad parts of the tree that he had bought, drill holes and take the best boughs from the other tree and stick them in there, so his tree was always moi, just like that.
He took this Christmas tree stuff seriously.
He did.
Huh?
He did. And he had a bunch of kids, married a widow who had 6 kids.
Oh, my goodness.
So you talk about big families in the little house around the corner from my grandmother's house. And she was born in County Cork. So,
County Cork.
Yeah.
God
So
bless her.
we had that kind of similar thing happened going on in your family as well as mine. But she used to sit in the living room with a cup of tea that was too hot. And so she'd spill a little into the saucer to cool it off and then drink the rest of it in the saucer.
Yes,
You heard about that?
Put it in a saucer and slurp,
So I had good examples to follow in that regard.
Yeah.
And my dad was like my grandfather. It's black or it's white. It's right or it's wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that my old man got whacked a few times by his father because I got whacked a few times by mine. In those days, that was discipline. But it wasn't to hurt anybody. It was just to make a point.
And that's exactly. And that's the way it was. And you knew that was coming if you stepped up pretty far out of line, you know. So you didn't. Sometimes you test the boundaries, but I'm not saying it's a good thing or it's a bad thing, but it certainly kept us in line, you know. Yeah.
I think that the influence of the church in a family is such a great marker, something to say, I'm what I am today because of that. When I first started working with Father Manning so many years ago, it was a wonderful opportunity, number one, to get to know what it's like to work on television, you know, the technical part of it, and to reinforce my faith and share my faith with his guests and met some fabulous people. And I was at Mass this morning, having been listening to the radio recently about things that have been going on in the church that have been kind of dusted under the rug. And I thought to myself, gee, I never heard anything like that.
You know, Jack, if I can speak just a bit about that, about what the church is going through now with some of these errant priests and such. And I think, and by the way, the Baptists are going through the same thing, only much worse. But, I mean, people have to realize that the church is run by human beings, and everybody has their frailties. But by and large, it's an incredible faith to be a part of. And when this, when this ugliness rears its head, we forget about all the hundreds of thousands of beautiful priests out there, hundreds of thousands of nuns and sisters and lay Catholics and lay missionaries that are working for the church, that are working in total love and in total giving of their heart. But this society now, it seems, it wants to focus on just the ugly things. Forget about what's beautiful or what's right or what's poetic. It's just focus on the ugly things and blow that out of proportion. But with my show that I'm very proud of, All Things Catholic, I'd like to just talk to you. I'd like to interview you back in Studio City. I'll come see you. But just all the people that are just working in the fields of the Lord, they don't ask for anything. They don't ask for a thank you. They just ask, what do you need? How can I serve? What can I do? Where can I go? And all these people get lost in the shuffle. So with our show, with All Things Catholic, I like to spotlight these people. I like to give them a little time in the sun.
That's very much the way I feel about when Father Manning started so many years ago. I was with him on the first show. And Joe Campanella, who was just another super Catholic, just a terrific guy, was the guest. And it started from there. And when you have ministries like yours and this one, we can bring those inspiring things to people of faith to realize that no matter what goes the other way, we're all human, as you said, but so much good is being done. Yeah. And I just relish the fact that I get to meet people like you.
God bless you. And back at you. And, talking about tough people, did you ever work for Father Kaiser?
I met him and did one gig for them out there on the Pacific Highway. Yeah. We're going to be back with Joe in just a minute. This gets more interesting as we go on. I mean, he knows who I know. Did you ever do? Yes, it's so great. Come back.
There are times we are joyful and happy. There are also times when we are sad and depressed. Sometimes we laugh. Sometimes we cry. Sometimes we become angry. Sometimes we are calm and reflective. Yes, we are emotional people. Often we express our emotions loud and clear, but sometimes we suppress and keep them to ourselves. Our wounded emotions need to be healed to enable us to live normally. We want to offer you a book written by Father Martin Padovani, SVD. It is called Healing Wounded Emotions. Father Martin is a marriage counselor, and this book is the result of his many years of experience. Some of the topics he deals with in this book are anger with other people, anger with ourselves, and even anger with God. But what about forgiveness? Forgiveness of someone that has hurt us, and even forgiveness of ourselves. Then there is the emotion of depression. We know that today there are many who are living with the shadow of depression, and they do not know how to get out of it. Father Martin gives practical solutions to deal with our wounded emotions. So get your copy today. Surely you will be doing yourself a favor. Or maybe you know someone who needs a copy.
Call the number on the screen or email us. You can also get it through our website. Know your emotions and live them to the full. This book will surely give you the peace that you are looking for.
Thanks for coming back again. We're with Joe Estevez, radio talk show.
I'm having a good time, Jack.
I'm glad you're having a good time. Joe is going to tell you where you can hear All Things Catholic. Some of us may have forgotten a few things Catholic that might be helpful to us. So, Joe, you're syndicated?
We're mainly out of Brooklyn, New York is where our home office is, and where, their studios are, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And we play in and around New York, hopefully, we're going to be playing All Things Catholic. It's going to be playing on this network before too long, if everything works out. But in New York, we're in a lot of places. In Europe, actually, we're in Spain, we're in Ireland, but the rest of the place we're what they call streaming.
Yep.
I guess streaming live. Yeah. But it's funny when they call me back to Brooklyn and to do a show there or whatever, that people recognize me, not for anything I've done in films, but for All Things Catholic, which is it's great. I get a kick out of that.
Tell me about some of the films you've been in that I might have heard of.
Oh gosh, well that's
I
it's
got
funny.
some you never heard of
Oh
too.
gosh, 95% of my films nobody ever heard of, but it's what they call, if you can make a living as an actor, you're doing good. You're doing real good. And you and I made a living as an actor, and boy, that's I feel blessed. But I was just doing some reminiscing the other night. The first film that I ever did was a film called Lucky Lady. It was Burt Reynolds, Liza Minnelli, and Gene Hackman. And I was just a kid. And I'm working with the three biggest stars in the world, and had scenes with them. And we shot it in Guaymas, Mexico. Incredible cast. Stanley Donner was the director. The film went nowhere. It just died. I don't think it earned $10 million, but it was strange with that cast. I hope it wasn't me. But Jack Palance, I love. Michael Parks was one of my heroes, and I've had the opportunity to work with my brother a couple of 3 times, which is always a treat. But I did a lot of independent, but there is, I'd like now, I try to do movies that have a positive message. I was kind of back in the late 80s and 90s. I don't want to say I was king of the horror films, but let's say in independent films. And I did a lot of them, and I could go, and I just got to feel more and more uncomfortable doing these types of films. And I mean, morally, I didn't feel, and finally, I can't do these anymore. I just, if it's not, and I just cast my, I says, God, if I'm gonna keep working.
I know exactly how you feel.
And I've been working as much as I want, and I just don't do those anymore. I mean, I do, silly stuff, fun stuff, John, but I stay away from stuff that I think is morally, is not good for especially the young folks.
I did a piece in Rosemary's Baby, and I remember that being kind of spooky.
Big film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the book, The Making of Rosemary's Baby, was just published. And if you turn to page 15, that's my first quote. Page 17 is the first photo of me with Blackmer and Ruth Gordon.
Oh, wow.
So it was quite a thing. It was for a young guy, first big movie working in, it was quite an experience.
That had to be.
It
Talk
was.
about stars. There were some headliners. in that
John
film.
Cassavetes, Mia Farrow,
Yeah.
and
Was Ruth Gordon, right?
Ruth Gordon.
Yeah.
She had a voice that could crack
Yeah.
glass.
She was a pistol.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
terrific. And Polanski was very upset because we were suffering rain delays, overtime, meal penalties. Everything was going against us for a short period of time. And I was real happy because it was a nice payday.
Yeah.
And I didn't give much thought to the subject matter, although it was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And but today I see things that just drive me up the wall. Why do you have to do that?
Yeah.
Why do you have to say that?
Yeah. yeah. And we're in a place where more is more.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not enough to be vulgar. Can you be the most vulgar?
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
Tell me about your personal education outside of Sunday school.
You know, I never. It's hard to get an education to be an actor, you know.
Oh, sure.
And it was the only thing that I ever wanted. When I got out of the service, I had a ready-made family, and I made refrigerators, and I worked on an assembly line.
I'd say that was pretty cool.
That was horrible. That was horrible, and I was wasting away. I mean, I was wasting my life away. And so my wife and I talked about it, and I cast my die in '72, went back to the factory. But in '74, I got a gig, and I was able to hang on and to work out here. But personally, you know, I'd like to keep a very low profile. If I'd like to, as an actor, work and go home. You know, I come from that factory mentality. You know, carry your lunch, do your 8 or 10 hours, and go home, and the rest of the day is for yourself. But you know, I'm very. I think for as much as I, you know, as loud as I am and out there, I'm a pretty private person. You know, I have friends, but my brother John, I think, is my best friend who lives back in Dayton. But I'm a loner. What do you think I am? I enjoy. You know, I'm driving up here. These beautiful mountains on the center.
Yeah.
They're that green now. I don't know if you folks in California, you know all this great rain that we've gotten, but boy, what it's done to the mountains and the countryside. It looks all just picture perfect with the green and all the beauty that California is.
Sure, but gorgeous, like we're back in Ireland, isn't it?
You know, it is. It's like that deep green that.
Emerald green.
Emerald green from the Emerald Isle, yeah. But have you gone to Ireland? You been?
I got off the plane in what was it, Shannon. I walked down the steps, I kissed the ground, went into the gift shop to get something from my grandmother who was from Cork.
Yeah.
And so I got her a German figurine, a Hummel, because she liked them. How inappropriate, but she enjoyed getting it.
Wow. I had the I was there first when my mother's 100th birthday. We celebrated, and we had one Father Patty, who has since passed, but he was our one priest in the family, you know, and he said a grand mass for our mother, and we spent about a week there where she was from, with all the relatives that were still alive. But since then, I've had an opportunity to shoot there 3 times, and toured one play there, which was just, you know, it was like a dream come true for an actor.
For years and years, I wanted to play a priest. And a year or so ago, finally,
I got
to play a priest in a series of programs called Dead Woman Walking, Women on Death Row.
Wow.
And so it was a visit and a conversation about the death penalty from the perspective of the Catholic Church and so forth.
Yeah.
And I got to go up and genuflect and sing a hymn, and it was to wear a collar for the first time. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So throughout my life, there have been times like that. When I started acting, I had to audition for the drama department at Catholic University for a place on their graduate acting company. And I rode all night on the bus. I had taken exams at UMass. And I got there at 6 in the morning, took a bus to the Church of the Immaculate Conception on the campus, and went to Mass at 6 o'clock. And I see, walking into the lower church where the Mass was, these rays of light coming from those rounded windows up in the cupola. Yeah. And it was awe-inspiring. and I was inspired enough to win their first scholarship ever.
God bless you.
And so that-
Congratulations.
thanks.
Yeah.
And it was only the reason because I was so exhausted from the arduous trip and not getting any sleep that I was totally relaxed, and it looked like this guy is cool. He's just fluid as the water in the River Shannon.
Yeah.
And later on, they said, "Who was that guy we got into this anyway?" But it's all paid off for me, and I've been so pleased that I've been able to make a small name for myself in something that I love. A lot of people don't get to do that.
No.
And I'm sure that you love what you're doing. And it's a blessing for me to be back here on Father Manning's program, because this is where you meet the best people in the world.
This, until recently, I didn't know that this was, so I may be hanging around like a bad habit from now on, but
I want to thank our audience for being with us today, especially having you here, Joe.
I am
This has
honored.
been inspiring
truly honored.
and enlightening, too. So it's been really cool. I want to thank all of you out there for being with us and say a prayer for you. God bless you all. Come back to see us again.
There are times we are joyful and happy. There are also times when we are sad and depressed. Sometimes we laugh. Sometimes we cry. Sometimes we become angry. Sometimes we are calm and reflective. Yes, we are emotional people. Often we express our emotions loud and clear, but sometimes we suppress and keep them to ourselves. Our wounded emotions need to be healed to enable us to live normally. We want to offer you a book written by Father Martin Padovani, SVD. It is called Healing Wounded Emotions. Father Martin is a marriage counselor, and this book is the result of his many years of experience. Some of the topics he deals with in this book are anger, anger with other people, anger with ourselves, and even anger with God. But what about forgiveness? Forgiveness of someone that has hurt us, and even forgiveness of ourselves. Then there is the emotion of depression. We know that today there are many who are living with the shadow of depression, and they do not know how to get out of it. Father Martin gives practical solutions to deal with our wounded emotions. So get your copy today. Surely you will be doing yourself a favor. Or maybe you know someone who needs a copy.
Call the number on the screen or email us. You can also get it through our website. Know your emotions and live them to the full. This book will surely give you the peace that you are looking for.